Welcome to our deep dive into the future of business travel. We're going to unpack the 2025 CWT GBTA Global Business Travel Forecast. You know, that big old report everyone's buzzing about? Think of this like your cheat sheet for what's coming in the next few years.
Yeah, whether you're the one actually traveling or the one managing the budget. And it's not just about knowing the numbers, right?
Right.
We're going to connect the dots,
Yep.
help you make better decisions. Everything from booking strategies to just understanding like what is actually driving these costs up.
Okay, so first things first. Big takeaway. What's the headline? What are we bracing ourselves for?
I think the big shocker for a lot of people is that we really need to forget about 2019 as the benchmark for travel costs.
Oh, okay.
It's a whole new world out there, and it's pricier.
So those good old days deals they're out the window.
Gone, gone, gone. Think of it like we're on a plateau. We're not at a peak. Like airfares are predicted to rise globally by another 0.6%, hotels by 1.9%, and car rentals by 2.4% in 2025, which doesn't sound like huge numbers on their own, but stacked on top of what we're already paying.
Yeah.
Adds up pretty quickly.
So this isn't just like a little bit of inflation we're talking about. What is really going on that's causing these prices to just keep going up?
It's like this tangled web of factors. I mean, the global economy is growing, but it's slow. And there's just a lot of uncertainty kind of hanging out there.
Right.
You think about the ripple effects of the war in Ukraine, the tension in the Middle East, even the U.S. elections next year. All of that impacts business confidence and how much people are willing to spend on travel.
And of course, we can't forget about labor shortages, right? Like every industry is being hit by this, especially hospitality. And those higher wages have got to show up on our hotel bills, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And on top of that, you've got persistent inflation, especially in the hospitality sector where demand is just outpacing supply. So hotels can charge more because they know people need rooms.
So even if like leisure travel is maybe softening a bit, business travel is just keeping those prices nice and high.
Exactly. And then there's this whole new factor in the mix, too, which is sustainability.
Okay.
Airlines are having to invest in sustainable aviation fuel carbon offset programs. But those costs are being passed down to,
To us.
the passengers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a good thing long term, but it does add to that price tag.
Okay. So it's like economics, geopolitics,
Yeah.
and a little bit of ethics.
A little bit of ethics.
Okay. Now let's break down what this actually means for different parts of a business trip. Starting with, I think everybody's favorite to complain about air travel.
Oh, yeah.
What's the story there?
Air travel in 2025, it's really a story of tight supply and soaring demand. Think record profits for airlines, but not necessarily cheaper fares.
Wait, so they're raking it in.
Mhm.
We're not seeing any deals.
It's fascinating. They're really laser focused on what's called yield management, basically squeezing every dollar out of every seat. And then, of course, you've got those Boeing delivery delays,
Oh, yeah.
really impacting supply, especially North America.
Fewer planes, fewer seats, higher prices.
Fewer planes, fewer seats, prices go up.
And I saw in the report, even though Asia Pacific is recovering slower from the pandemic, their airfares are, catching up fast.
Catching up, yeah.
But it's EEA
Yeah,
that's looking at like the highest average ticket prices
the highest, globally.
globally.
Yeah, and down in Latin America, it's a similar story to North America. You've got strong demand, capacity shortages, and those dreaded price increases.
Can't escape them. Now, in all this talk about fares, we can't forget about like airline consolidation too. Mega mergers happening everywhere.
Everywhere.
Is this good news or bad news for the average business traveler?
I think it's a mixed bag, honestly. On one hand, bigger airlines can theoretically operate more efficiently, which you would think would maybe lead to lower costs eventually.
Yeah.
But less competition often leads to fewer choices and less flexibility on price.
So maybe we end up paying more for less. Not really the future I was hoping for.
It's something to watch for sure. But let's move on from the skies and talk about where we're going to be resting our weary heads. What's the hotel situation looking like in 2025?
Everybody wants to know if those crazy hotel price surges are finally going to chill out a little bit. What does the forecast say?
Globally, hotel price growth is moderating a little bit after that massive rebound we saw post-pandemic. But here's the catch. Lack of new supply is keeping those prices from truly dropping.
So we're in this holding pattern of high prices, even if the growth isn't as dramatic.
Exactly.
Oh.
And the trends vary by region, too. North America saw huge price jumps in 2022. Things are calming down a little bit. Asia Pacific, especially China, is still playing catch-up after their late pandemic recovery, so the prices are still climbing. EMEA is anticipating kind of moderate growth, mainly because economic concerns are making some leisure travelers think twice about those European vacations.
And then there's Latin America,
Latin America.
the rock stars of hotel price growth.
Absolutely. They're exceeding every other region. But what I think is really interesting here is how hotel chains are evolving their strategies to kind of maintain this pricing power.
Hmm,
Revenue management is their top priority, and they're getting really good at managing inventory to keep those rates nice and high.
okay.
We're also seeing more dynamic and attribute-based pricing, which can make it really tough for travelers to predict costs. Think of it like airlines charging extra for baggage. Hotels are doing the same with things like Wi-Fi or early check-in.
So we need to be super savvy when we're booking hotels in 2025. Like, no more just picking the first decent option.
Right, exactly. You really need to become like a master negotiator. Don't just accept the first price you see. Shop around, use your travel data to your advantage, and don't be afraid to, push back on those rates. The squeaky wheel often gets the grease, or in this case, a better room rate.
Okay, so we've covered the skies and where we'll sleep. But what about actually getting around once we land? What's the forecast for ground transportation? Specifically, car rentals.
Globally, car rental prices are steadying after a period of, wild fluctuations. We saw a 3% increase in 2023, pushing the average daily rate to $34.30. But that growth is expected to slow down a little bit in the coming years.
But there's a twist.
There is a twist.
Something about EVs kind of throwing a wrench in things.
Yeah, you got it. Turns out demand for rental EVs hasn't been as high as car rental companies anticipated. Plus, they're just more expensive.
Okay.
Higher costs for repairs, insurance, even the logistics of charging all those vehicles. It's making some companies rethink their EV fleets.
So does that mean fewer EVs available or even like higher prices for those who do want them?
It's definitely a possibility. And even if you're not specifically looking for an EV, those higher costs for rental companies could trickle down to all rental categories.
Okay.
Plus, there's the added inconvenience of charging, right? Imagine showing up for a big meeting and realizing you have to factor in time to juice up your rental car.
Not ideal. Okay. So ground transportation might have some bumps in the road, but what about those all-important meetings and events? Are they back to their, pre-pandemic glory?
They're back with a vengeance.
Mhm.
But that resurgence comes with a price tag.
Yeah, the report basically says strong demand, but, brace yourselves for higher costs. Is it just inflation or is there something more to it?
It's a few things. First, those staffing shortages we talked about, they're hitting the events industry hard too. Venues, catering companies, they're having to pay more to attract and retain workers, and that cost gets passed along to event planners.
And attendees, are expecting more. After years of virtual events, they want those in-person gatherings to be like truly memorable.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Boring conferences are out. Interactive experiences are in. Think high-tech, immersive setups, unique destinations, top-notch speakers. All of that adds up.
And we can't forget about the growing focus on ESG and DEI initiatives. Companies are being more mindful about choosing sustainable venues, diverse speakers, inclusive event formats.
It all adds to the cost, but it also pushes the M&E industry to be more innovative and purpose-driven. It's not just about throwing a party anymore. It's about creating experiences that align with business objectives. Really engage attendees on a deeper level and, of course, deliver a strong return on investment.
So it's like everything else in business travel. Higher costs, but also higher expectations.
Yeah,
Okay. So now that we've laid out kind of the landscape,
the lay of the land.
what are some takeaways from this report? How do we actually make good decisions in light of all this?
It really is. So, looks like 2025 is shaping up to be a year of tough choices for travel managers and road warriors alike.
Well, I'm all about solutions, not just doom and gloom. So let's shift gears a little bit. What are some key takeaways from this report? How can we actually make smart decisions in this new landscape?
I think the first thing is just accepting the reality of this new, higher baseline for travel costs.
Okay.
Don't get stuck comparing everything to 2019. It's just not realistic. Budgets need to reflect this new normal.
So step one, rip off the 2019 Band-Aid and embrace the new price tag. What else?
Next, I think you really got to ditch the set it and forget it mentality.
Okay.
Travel programs need continuous optimization. That means actively negotiating, diving deep into your travel data, being flexible with your supplier choices.
Yeah.
Don't just assume that your old contracts are still the best deals.
I love that continuous optimization. It's almost like travel hacking, but for businesses.
Totally.
Always looking for that edge.
Exactly. And it's not just about squeezing pennies either. It's about taking a more holistic approach, breaking down those silos between departments. Your travel program should align with your company's broader goals, whether it's employee well-being, sustainability, risk management.
So sometimes the cheapest flight isn't the best choice.
Right.
If it means a totally exhausted employee showing up late and unprepared.
Exactly. You got to weigh the costs and benefits. And sometimes that means choosing a more expensive airline with a better track record for on-time arrivals, or a hotel with, stronger sustainability practices.
It's about value, not just the bottom line. Now, the report also talks about something called divergent pricing.
Yeah.
What is that, and how can we use it to our advantage?
Think of it this way. The global economy isn't like this single flat landscape.
Right.
Some regions are booming, others are facing headwinds. And that creates opportunities.
So if we're strategic about where we travel or where we hold events, we could potentially offset some of those higher costs, take advantage of regions with lower prices.
Exactly. It's about being savvy and looking beyond the obvious choices. For example, maybe that conference you always held in London could be just as successful and more affordable in a city like Lisbon or Berlin.
Ooh, I like that. Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the ever-changing world of pricing strategies.
Oh, yeah.
Dynamic pricing, AI, NDC.
Yeah.
How do we even keep up?
It's definitely a wild west out there, but knowledge is power. Stay informed about shifts in supplier pricing power. Keep an eye on what's happening with NDC. And most importantly, be prepared for new pricing strategies to emerge. What worked yesterday might not work tomorrow.
Okay, so quick breakdown for anyone who's like, what is NDC? Why should I care?
So NDC stands for New Distribution Capability. It's basically a new way for airlines to sell their tickets and services, giving them more control over pricing and bundling. It means more options for travelers, but also potentially more complexity.
So we might get more personalized offers.
Yeah.
But it also means we really need to be paying attention.
Pay attention to those fine print details.
Those fine print details, yeah.
Exactly. Compare prices carefully, make sure you're getting the services you need, and don't be afraid to shop around.
Okay. So we've covered the big trends, some kind of strategic takeaways, but the report also kind of hinted at some intriguing, almost new trends emerging on the horizon. Was there anything that stood out to you?
One thing that really caught my eye is the whole unbundling of services thing,
Oh, yeah.
especially in air travel and hotels.
Uh-huh.
It's all about giving travelers more choices, but it can also make comparing prices a real headache.
So it's like that old saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch.
Exactly.
You might get a lower base fare, but then you end up nickel and dimed for every little extra.
Exactly. Be aware of this trend and factor it into your decisions. Don't just look at the headline price. Dig deeper, compare the total cost of what you're actually getting, and make sure it aligns with your needs and your budget.
Okay. What other trends are we seeing?
Another fascinating one is the rise of what's being called differential travel. Basically, there's no one-size-fits-all approach to business travel anymore.
So we can't assume that all companies or even all employees within a company are going to have the same travel patterns and needs.
Right. Some companies are doubling down on travel, seeing it as essential for building relationships and closing deals. Others are pulling back, driven by sustainability concerns or the effectiveness of virtual collaboration. Some embrace leisure travel, others stick to strictly business trips.
It's more important than ever to really understand the specific needs and priorities of each company.
Absolutely.
And each traveler.
And this kind of brings us to a budgeting trend that's gaining some traction as well.
Okay.
Which is zero-based budgeting.
That sounds intense.
It is.
Like starting from scratch every time.
That's the idea. It's about justifying every single expense, starting with a blank slate and asking, what do we absolutely need to spend money on? It's a rigorous approach, but it can help control costs and ensure that every travel dollar is aligned with strategic goals.
So it's like Marie Kondoing your travel budget?
Yeah.
Only keeping the expenses that spark joy?
I love that analogy.
And align with your goals.
Oh.
Okay, last one. What about this cannibalization of leisure travel the report mentions?
Yeah.
That sounds a little ominous.
Well, it's not like business travel is devouring leisure travel or anything.
Okay.
It's more about the lines blurring.
Okay.
With business travel so expensive, companies are getting creative, especially for longer stays. They're exploring vacation rentals, short-term rental platforms as alternatives to traditional hotels.
So it's kind of blending business and leisure, getting a little more bang for your buck.
Right. And it really appeals to younger travelers, who value that flexibility and experiences. Some companies are even updating their travel policies to accommodate this trend. It's all about adapting to a changing world.
So it's not just about finding the cheapest hotel room anymore.
Right.
It's about finding the best accommodation that fits the needs of the traveler and the purpose of the trip,
Exactly.
even if that means looking beyond, the traditional options.
And that flexibility and willingness to adapt are key for anyone involved in business travel, whether you're planning trips, managing budgets, or just trying to understand this ever-evolving landscape.
Sounds like the future of business travel is all about flexibility, adaptability,
Oh, yeah.
and maybe even a little bit of creativity.
For sure. The old playbooks are being thrown out the window.
Right.
Companies and travelers who can think outside the box, embrace those new technologies, adapt to those changing trends, those are the ones who are going to thrive in this new world.
Well, this has been a fantastic deep dive into the 2025 CWT GBTA Global Business Travel Forecast.
Yeah.
I feel like I've got a whole new perspective on what's coming down the pipeline.
It's a valuable roadmap for anyone who's involved in business travel, from seasoned road warriors to those just starting to navigate the world of corporate travel.
But before we wrap things up, I always like to leave our listeners with something to ponder, a challenge to take away from our conversation. So what is your final thought-provoking question for our audience today?
I think the key question here is, now that you've had this glimpse into the future of business travel, what concrete steps can you take to prepare your organization or your own travel plans for these changes?
Ooh, that's good. It's not enough to just be aware of the trends. We need to actually take action.
Right. It's time to put these insights into practice.
Yeah.
Maybe it's revisiting your travel policies, exploring new booking tools, having conversations with your team about, their needs and expectations, or even just starting to think differently about what business travel can be.
Yeah.
Every step you take today will make you better prepared for the road ahead.
Well said. And remember, even though we've talked about some challenges, rising costs,
Yeah,
there's also, I think, a sense of excitement about the future of business travel.
for sure.
New technologies, new ways of working, greater focus on sustainability and traveler well-being. It's an evolving landscape with plenty of opportunities for those who are willing to adapt and innovate.
I completely agree. That's what makes this such a fascinating time to be part of the business travel world. It's not just about getting from point A to point B anymore.
Right.
It's about connecting, collaborating, and creating meaningful experiences that drive business success.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the future of business travel.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, safe travels, everyone.
Thank you for joining us on this journey through the future of travel. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more insights and updates. Visit Tourism, Capturing the Scene of Knowledge, a comprehensive website delivering the latest travel trends and innovations. Accelerate your mastery of the tourism industry, all in one place. Navigate through a vast showcase of comprehensive business-oriented tourism content, 99% pure industry intelligence, and 1% academic, curated for discerning professionals. Why subscribe to Tourism? Capturing the Scene of Knowledge. Make informed decisions. Instantly access key reports and insights from top sources across the tourism industry. No research required. All in one place. Why split your attention? A single subscription gives you easy access to thousands of reports, videos, and infographics just as effortlessly as watching a 30-second ad. Save time with curated searches. Time is money. Let our subscription save you both by delivering valuable insights directly without the endless search. Until next time, happy travels.